ॐ एकदन्ताय नमः। ॐ कपिलाय नमः। ॐ गजकर्णकाय नमः। ॐ लंबोदराय नमः। ॐ विकटाय नमः। ॐ विघ्नराजाय नमः। ॐ विनायकाय नमः। ॐ धूमकेतवे नमः। ॐ गणाध्यक्षाय नमः। ॐ भालचंद्राय नमः। ॐ गजाननाय नमः। ॐ वक्रतुंडाय नमः। ॐ शूर्पकर्णाय नमः। ॐ हेरंभाय नमः। ॐ स्कंदपूर्वजाय नमः। ॐ श्री सिद्धिविनायक स्वामिने नमः। ॐ स्फटिकरजतवर्णं मौक्तिकीमक्षमालाम् अमृतकलशविद्यां ज्ञाननिद्रां कराग्रे ददतमुरुककक्षं चन्द्रचूडं त्रिनेत्रं विधृतविविधभूषं दक्षिणामूर्तमीडे. So you can just follow after me. Om Namo Bhagavate Dakshinamurtaye. Om Namo Bhagavate Dakshinamurtaye. Mahyam Medham Pragyam Prayachya Swaha. Mahyam Medham Pragyam Prayachya Swaha. Now we'll do 2 more times with a complete one. Om Namo Bhagavate Dakshinamurtaye. Mahyam Medham Pragyam Prayachya Swaha. Om Namo Bhagavate Dakshinamurtaye. Mahyam Medham Pragyam Prayachya Swaha. Om Namo Bhagavate Dakshinamurtaye. Mahyam Medham Pragyam Prayachya Swaha. So if we can just do the 108 names and you can just follow after me. Chandra, can you reduce it just a teeny bit?
There's some echo.
Some echo. You can just follow after me. Om Omkara Simha Sarvendraya Namaha.
Omkara Simha Sarvendraya Namaha.
Om Omkarodhyana Kokilaya Namaha.
Om Omkarodhyana Kokilaya Namaha.
Om Omkara Nida Shukaraje Namaha.
Om Omkara Nida Shukaraje Namaha.
Om Omkararanya Kunjaraya Namaha.
Om Omkararanya Kunjaraya Namaha.
Om Nagaraja Sutajanaye Namaha.
Om Nagaraja Sutajanaye Namaha.
Om Nagaraja Nijalayaya Namaha.
Om Nagaraja Nijalayaya Namaha.
Om Navamanikyamadhyaya Namaha.
Om Navamanikyamadhyaya Namaha.
Om Navachandrashikhamanaye Namaha.
Om Navachandrashikhamanaye Namaha.
Om Nandita Shesha Maunindraya Namaha.
Om Nandita Shesha Maunindraya Namaha.
Om Nandishadimadeshikaya Namaha.
Om Nandishadimadeshikaya Namaha.
Om Mohanalasudhasaraya Namaha.
Om Mohanalasudhasaraya Namaha.
Om Mohambujasudhakaraya Namaha.
Om Mohambujasudhakaraya Namaha.
Om Mohandakaratarnaye Namaha.
Om Mohandakaratarnaye Namaha.
Om Mohotpalanabhomanaye Namaha.
Om Mohotpalanabhomanaye Namaha.
Om Bhakta-jnana-abdhishitanshave Namaha.
Om Bhakta-jnana-abdhishitanshave Namaha.
Om Bhakta-jnana-trinalayaya Namaha.
Om Bhakta-jnana-trinalayaya Namaha.
Om Bhakta-ambojasahasranshave Namaha.
Om Bhakta-ambojasahasranshave Namaha.
Om Bhakta भक्त के की घना घनाय नमः।
ओम भक्त के की घना घनाय नमः।
ओम भक्त कैरवरा केंदवे नमः।
ओम भक्त कैरवरा केंदवे नमः।
ओम भक्त कोक दिवाकराय नमः।
ओम भक्त कोक दिवाकराय नमः।
ओम गजाननादि संपूज्याय नमः।
ओम गजाननादि संपूज्याय नमः।
ओम गजचर्मोज्ज्वलत्कृतये गजचर्मोज्ज्वलाकृतये नमः।
ओम गजचर्मोज्ज्वलाकृतये नमः।
ओम गजचर्मोज्ज्वलाकृतये नमः।
ओम गजचर्मोज्ज्वलाकृतये नमः।
ओम गंगाधवल दिव्यांगाय नमः।
ओम गंगाधवल दिव्यांगाय नमः।
ओम गंगा पंकिल सज्जटाय नमः।
ओम गंगा पंकिल सज्जटाय नमः।
ओम गगनांबर संवीताय नमः।
ओम गगनांबर संवीताय नमः।
ओम गगनामुक्तमूर्धजाय नमः।
ओम गगनामुक्तमूर्धजाय नमः।
ओम वदनाब्जचिताब्जश्रिये नमः।
ओम वदनाब्जचिताब्जश्रिये नमः।
ओम वदनाब्जचिताब्जश्रिये नमः।
ओम वदनाब्जचिताब्जश्रिये नमः।
ओम वदनेन्दुस्फुरद्दिशाय नमः।
ओम वदनेन्दुस्फुरद्दिशाय नमः।
ओम वरदानैकनिपुणाय नमः।
ओम वरदानैकनिपुणाय नमः।
ओम वरवीणोज्ज्वलत्कराय नमः।
ओम वरवीणोज्ज्वलत्कराय नमः।
ओम वनवाससमुल्लासाय नमः।
ओम वनवाससमुल्लासाय नमः।
ओम वनवीरैकलोलुपाय नमः।
ओम वनवीरैकलोलुपाय नमः।
ओम वनवीरैकलोलुपाय नमः।
ओम वनवीरैकलोलुपाय नमः।
ओम तेजःभुञ्जघनाकाराय नमः।
ओम
तेजःभुञ्जघनाकाराय नमः। ओम तेजसामपि भासकाय नमः।
ओम तेजसामपि भासकाय नमः।
ओम विनेयानां तेजःप्रदाय नमः।
ओम विनेयानां तेजःप्रदाय नमः।
ओम तेजोमय निजाश्रमाय नमः।
ओम तेजोमय निजाश्रमाय नमः।
ओम दमितानंग संग्रामाय नमः।
ओम
दमितानंग संग्रामाय नमः। ओम दरहासजितांगनाय नमः।
ओम दरहासजितांगनाय नमः।
ओम दयारससुधा सिंधवे नमः।
ओम दयारससुधा सिंधवे नमः।
ओम दरिद्रधनशेवदये नमः।
ओम दरिद्रधनशेवदये नमः।
ओम क्षीरेन्दुस्फटिकाकाराय नमः।
ओम क्षीरेन्दुस्फटिकाकाराय नमः।
ओम क्षीरेन्दुमुकुटोज्ज्वलाय नमः।
ओम क्षीरेन्दुमुकुटोज्ज्वलाय नमः।
ओम क्षीरोपहाररसिकाय नमः।
ओम क्षीरोपहाररसिकाय नमः।
ओम क्षिप्रैश्वर्यफलप्रदाय नमः।
ओम क्षिप्रैश्वर्यफलप्रदाय नमः।
ओम क्षिप्रैश्वर्यफलप्रदाय नमः।
ओम क्षिप्रैश्वर्यफलप्रदाय नमः।
ओम नानाभरणन्मुग्धांगाय नमः।
ओम नानाभरणमुग्धांगाय नमः।
ओम नारी सम्मोहनाकृतये नमः।
ओम नारी सम्मोहनाकृतये नमः।
ओम नादब्रह्मरसास्वादिने नमः।
ओम नादब्रह्मरसास्वादिने नमः।
ओम नागभूषणभूषिताय नमः।
ओम नागभूषणभूषिताय नमः।
ओम ओम मूर्ति निंदित कंदर्पाय नमः।
ओम मूर्ति निंदित कंदर्पाय नमः।
ओम मूर्ता मूर्त जगत वपुषे नमः।
ओम मूर्ता मूर्त जगत वपुषे नमः।
ओम मूलाज्ञानतमो भानवे नमः।
ओम मूलाज्ञानतमो भानवे नमः।
ओम मूर्तिमत्कल्पपादपाय नमः।
ओम मूर्तिमत्कल्पपादपाय नमः।
ओम तरुणादित्यसंकाशाय नमः।
ओम तरुणादित्यसंकाशाय नमः।
ओम तंत्री वादन तत्पराय नमः।
ओम तंत्री वादन तत्पराय नमः।
ओम तरुमूलैक निलयाय नमः।
ओम तरुमूलैक निलयाय नमः।
ओम तप्त जाम्बूनद प्रभाय नमः।
ओम तप्त जाम्बूनद प्रभाय नमः।
ओम तत्वपुस्तोल सत्पाणये नमः।
ओम तत्वपुस्तोल सत्पाणये नमः।
ओम तपनोडुपलोचनाय नमः।
ओम तपनोडुपलोचनाय नमः।
ओम यमसंनुत सत्कीर्तये नमः।
ओम यमसन्नुत सत्कीर्तये नमः।
ओम यम संयुताय नमः।
ओम यम संयुताय नमः।
ओम यतिरूपधराय मौनिने नमः।
ओम यतिरूपधराय मौनिने नमः।
ओम यतीन्द्रोपास्य विग्रहाय नमः।
ओम यतीन्द्रोपास्य विग्रहाय नमः।
ओम मंदारहार रुचिराय नमः।
ओम मंदारहार रुचिराय नमः।
ओम मदनायुत सुंदराय नमः।
ओम मदनायुत सुंदराय नमः।
ओम मंदस्मितलसत्वक्त्राय नमः।
ओम मंदस्मितलसत्वक्त्राय नमः।
ओम मंदस्मितलसत्वक्त्राय नमः।
ओम मंदस्मितलसत्वक्त्राय नमः।
ओम मधुराधर पल्लवाय नमः।
ओम मधुराधर पल्लवाय नमः।
ओम मंजीर मंजुपादाब्जाय नमः।
ओम मंजीर मंजुपादाब्जाय नमः।
ओम मणिपट्टोल सत्कटये नमः।
ओम मणिपट्टोल सत्कटये नमः।
ओम हस्तांकुरित चिन्मुद्राय नमः।
ओम हस्तांकुरित चिन्मुद्राय नमः।
ओम हस्तांकुरित चिन्मुद्राय नमः।
ओम हस्तांकुरित चिन्मुद्राय नमः।
ओम हठयोग परोत्तमाय नमः।
ओम हठयोग परोत्तमाय नमः।
ओम हंस जप्याक्षमालाढ्याय नमः।
ओम हंस जप्याक्षमालाढ्याय नमः।
ओम हंसे द्वाराध्य पादुकाय नमः।
ओम
हंसे द्वाराध्य पादुकाय नमः। ओम मेरु शृंग तटोल्लासाय नमः।
ओम मेरु शृंग तटोल्लासाय नमः।
ओम मेघ श्याम मनोहराय नमः।
ओम मेघ श्याम मनोहराय नमः।
ओम मेधांकुरालवालाग्र्याय नमः।
ओम मेधांकुरालवालाग्र्याय नमः।
ओम मेधांकुरालवालाग्र्याय नमः।
ओम मेधांकुरालवालाग्र्याय नमः।
ओम मेधापक्वफलद्रुमाय नमः।
ओम मेधापक्वफलद्रुमाय नमः।
ओम धार्मिकान्तर्गुहावासाय नमः।
ओम धार्मिकान्तर्गुहावासाय नमः।
ओम धर्म मार्ग प्रवर्तकाय नमः।
ओम धर्म मार्ग प्रवर्तकाय नमः।
ओम धामत्रय निजारामाय नमः।
ओम धामत्रय निजारामाय नमः।
ओम धर्मोत्तम मनोरथाय नमः।
ओम धर्मोत्तम मनोरथाय नमः।
ओम प्रबोध दीपश्रिये नमः
Om Prabodhottar Dipashriye Namaha.
ओम प्रकाशित जगत्त्रयाय नमः
Om Prakashita Jagatrayaya Namaha.
ओम प्रज्ञा चंद्रशिला चंद्राय नमः
Om Pragya Chandrashila Chandraya Namaha.
ओम प्रज्ञामणिवराकराय नमः
Om Pragyamani Varakaraya Namaha.
ओम ज्ञानान्तरभासात्मने नमः
Om Jnanantarabhasatmane Namaha.
ओम ज्ञातृज्ञातिविदुरगाय नमः
Om Gyatrugyadividuragaya Namaha.
ओम ज्ञान ज्ञाद्वैत दिव्यांगाय नमः
Om Jnana Gyadvaita Divyangaya Namaha.
ओम ज्ञात ज्ञादिकुलागताय नमः
Om Gyatrugyadikulagataye Namaha.
ओम प्रपन्न पारिजाताग्र्याय नमः
Om Prapanna Parijatagriyaya Namaha.
ओम प्रणतार्थ्यब्धिवाडवाय नमः
Om Pranatartyabdivaडवाय Namaha.
ओम प्रणतार्थ्यब्धिवाडवाय नमः
Om Pranatartyabdivaडवाय
नमः ओम भूतानां प्रमाणभूताय नमः
Om
भूतानां प्रमाणभूताय नमः ओम प्रपंचहितकारकाय नमः
Om Prapanchhitakaraye Namaha.
ओम यत्तत्त्वमसि संवेद्याय नमः
Om
यत्तत्त्वमसि संवेद्याय नमः ओम यक्षज्ञेयात्मवैभवाय नमः यक्षज्ञेयात्मवैभवाय नमः ओम यज्ञादिदेवतामूर्तये नमः यज्ञादिदेवतामूर्तये नमः ओम यजमानवपुर्धराय नमः
Om Yajamanavapurdharaye Namaha.
ओम छत्राधिपति विश्वेशाय नमः
Om Chhatradipati Vishveshaya Namaha.
ओम छत्र सामर सेविताय नमः
Om Chhatra Chamara Sevitaya Namaha.
ओम छंद शास्त्रादि निपुणाय नमः
Om Chanda Shastradi Nipunaya Namaha.
ओम छल जात्यादि दूरगाय नमः
Om Shalajatyadiduragaya Namaha.
ओम स्वाभाविक सुखैकात्मने नमः
Om Swabhavika Sukhaikatmane Namaha.
ओम स्वानुभूति रसोदधये नमः
Om Swanubhuti Rasodhare Namaha.
ओम स्वाराज्य संपद्यक्षाय नमः
Om Swarajya Sampadakshaya Namaha.
ओम स्वात्मा राम महामतये नमः
Om Swatma Rama Mahamataye Namaha.
ओम हाटका भजटाजूटाय नमः
Om Hataka Bhajata Jutaya Namaha.
ओम हासोदस्तारि मंडलाय नमः
Om Haso Dastari Mandalaya Namaha.
ओम हालाहलोज्ज्वलगलाय नमः
Om Hara Halojjwalakalaya Namaha.
ओम हार्दग्रंथि विमोचकाय नमः
Om Harja Granthi Vimochakaya Namaha.
ओम श्री मेधा दक्षिणामूर्ति स्वामिने नमः
Om Shri Megha Dakshinamurti Swamine Namaha.
ओम श्री दयानंद सद्गुरुवे नमः
Om Shri Dayananda Sadguruve Namaha.
ओम श्री महेशानंद सद्गुरुवे नमः
Om Shri Maheshananda Sadguruve Namaha.
Okay, it's 8:20. I think most of you are here, so we might as well start. We can cover more ground today. One thing we could do is to chant all the 12 verses of the Mandukya Upanishad. Since we have a few minutes, it would be good to make sure that we are familiar with the Upanishad. It's a short Upanishad, 12 verses only. It would be good to maybe not commit to memory. Certainly I haven't done it, but to be familiar with the sounds and so on. So we'll just do the 12 verses of the Mandukya. You can just follow after me. Let's do a prayer first. So. Om Shruti Smriti Purananam Alayam Karunalayam Namami Bhagavatpadam Shankaram Loka Shankaram Shankaram Shankaracharyam Keshavam Badarayanam Sutra Bhashya Kritau Vande Bhagavantau Punah Punaha Ishvaro Gururatmeti Murti Veda Vibhagine Vyomavatyapta Dehaya Dakshinamurtaye Namaha Rukarasvandakaro Vai Rukarasvanivartakaha Andakaraniyodhitvat Gurudhyamidhiyate Sadashivasamarambham Shankaracharya Madhyamam Asmadacharya Paryantam Vande Guru Paramparam. Om Sahana Bhavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Saha Viryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. We can have some of the chairs in the room also.
Is it open, right?
Turned around.
One chair is open here.
Yeah.
The books are sitting there.
Om Ityetadaksharidagum sarvam. Om Ityetadaksharidagum sarvam. Tasyopavyakhyanam. Bhutam bhavat bhavishyaditi. Sarvam Omkara eva. Yacchanyat-trikalatitam. Tadapyonkara eva. Sarvagum hi etat brahma. Ayamatma brahma. Soyamatma chatuspat. Jagritasthano bahishpragyaha. Saptang ekona vimshati mukhaha. Sthula bhuk vaishvanaraha. Prathama padaha. Swapnasthano antah pragyaha. Saptang ekona vimshati mukhaha. Pravivikta bhukta etaijaso. We are breaking the sandhi, then it will be pravivikta bhukta taijasaha. Dvitiyah padaha. Yatra supto na kanchana kamam kamayate. Na kanchana swapnam pashyati. Tat sushuptam. Sushuptasthana eki bhutaha. Pragyana ghana eva anandamayaha. ह्य आनन्दभुक्चेतो मुखः
य आनन्दभुक्चेतो चेतः
प्राज्ञस्तृतीयः पादः
प्राज्ञस्तृतीयः पादः
एष सर्वेश्वरः
एष सर्वेश्वरः
एष सर्वज्ञः
एष सर्वज्ञः
एषः अन्तर्यामी
एष अन्तर्यामी
एष योनिः
एष योनिः
सर्वस्य प्रभवाप्ययौ हि भूतानां
सर्वस्य प्रभवाप्ययौ हि
भूतानां न अन्तः प्रज्ञं
न अन्तःप्रज्ञं
न बहिष्प्रज्ञं
न बहिष्प्रज्ञं
न उभयतः प्रज्ञं
न उभयतः प्रज्ञं
न प्रज्ञानघनं
न प्रज्ञानघनं
न प्रज्ञं नाप्रज्ञं
न प्रज्ञं नाप्रज्ञम्
अदृष्टम् अव्यवहार्यम्
अदृष्टम् अव्यवहार्यम्
अग्राह्यम् अलक्षणम्
अग्राह्यम् अलक्षणम्
अचिन्त्यम् अव्यपदेश्यम्
अचिन्त्यम् अपदेश्यम्
एकात्मप्रत्ययसारम्
एकात्मप्रत्ययसारम्
प्रपञ्चोपशमं शान्तम्
प्रपञ्चोपशमं शान्तम्
शिवमद्वैतम्
शिवमद्वैतम्
चतुर्थं मन्यन्ते
चतुर्थं मन्यन्ते
स आत्मा स विज्ञेयः
स आत्मा स विज्ञेयः
सोऽयमात्मा अध्यक्षरम्
सोऽयमात्मा अध्यक्षरम्
ओङ्कारोऽधिमात्रम्
ओङ्कारोऽधिमात्रम्
पादामात्रा मात्राश्च पादा
पादामात्रा मात्राश्च पादा
मात्रा अकार उकारो मकार इति
पादा अकार
उकारो
उकारो
मकार
मकार
इति
इति
जागृतस्थानो वैश्वानरः
जागृतस्थानो वैश्वानरः
अकारः प्रथमा मात्रा
अकारः प्रथमा मात्रा
आप्तिरादिमत्वात्
आप्तिरादिमत्वात्
आप्नोति ह वै सर्वान् कामान्
आप्नोति वै सर्वान् कामान्
आदिश्च भवति च एवं वेद
आदिश्च भवति एवं वेद
स्वप्नस्थानतैजसः
स्वप्नस्थानतेजसः
उकारो द्वितीया मात्रा
उकारो द्वितीया मात्रा
उत्कर्षात् उभयत्वात् वा उत्कर्षात् उभयत्वात् वा उभयत्वात् सॉरी उत्कर्षात् उभयत्वात् उत्कर्षात् उभयत्वात् वा उत्कर्षति ह वै
वा उत्कर्षति ह वै
ज्ञानसन्ततिं समानश्च भवति
ज्ञानसन्ततिं समानश्च भवति
न अस्य ब्रह्मवित्कुले
नास्य ब्रह्मवित्कुले
भवति य एवं वेद
भवति य एवं वेद
सुषुप्तस्थानप्राज्ञः
सुषुप्तस्थानप्राज्ञः
मकारस्तृतीया मात्रा
मकारस्तृतीया मात्रा
मितेरपीर्तेवा मितेरपीर्तेर्वा मिनोति वह इदगुं सर्वम्
विनोति
भवा
वा
इदगुं
इदं सर्वम्
अपीतिश्च भवति य एवं वेद
अपीतिश्च भवति एवं वेद
अमात्रश्चतुर्थो व्यवहार्यः चतुर्थो व्यवहार्यः प्रपञ्च उपशमः
प्रपञ्चोपशमः
शिवोऽद्वैत एवमोङ्कारः
शिवोऽद्वैत एवमोङ्कारः
आत्मा एव संविशति
आत्मा एव संविशति
आत्मना आत्मानं य एवं वेद
आत्मना आत्मानं एवं वेद
Okay, let's continue with our study. So we had done Karika number 26, so let's pronounce it once and then we will complete it and go on to number 27. In fact, let's do both 26 and 27. Pronounce it. Pranavo hyaparam brahma.
Pranavo hyaparam brahma.
Pranavascha parah smritaha.
Paranasmritaha.
Apurvo nantaro bahyaha.
Apurvo nantaro bahya.
Anaparaha pranavo vyayaha.
Anaparaha pranavo vyaya.
Sarvasya pramano hyadihi.
Sarvasya pranavo hyadihi.
Madhyam antastathaiva cha.
Madhyam antastathaiva cha.
Evam hi pranavam jnatva.
Evam hi pranavam gyatva.
Vyashnute tadanantaram.
Yashnute tadanantaram.
So what we saw was that a study of pranava. Pranava means the Omkara, which is a pratika for Ishvara and a pratika for you and me, because fundamentally, as we should understand eventually, that my innate nature is none other than the fundamental nature of Ishvara. What is the fundamental of nature of Ishvara? Because the incidental nature of Ishvara is the capacity to create this huge universe and to maintain it and to get it going and have a purpose for it. This is the incidental nature of Ishvara. Right? The fundamental nature of Ishvara is Satyam Jnanam Ananta. Then one which is ever true, never to be dependent on anything, no time limitations, no vastu limitation, no dependence on it, no limitation, no limit, not limited by anything. This is the Satyam. And to be aware of this, the fact that I am. We are also unlimited even in sleep, but we are not aware of the fact that we are unlimited. So the sleep is just a little taste, but it is not the actual, the reality of the Satyam Jnanam Ananta. So here the fundamental nature of Ishvara is Satyam, always there, not dependent on time or vastu or desha or anything. Svatasiddha, self-existing, self-aware, Swayambhu. This is the fundamental nature of Ishvara. And also unlimited. There's nothing that it is, you don't have this feeling that, this is our issue in our life is that even if we are happy, it doesn't last very long. That immediately, in fact, when you're happy, you start feeling how long I'm going to be happy. Immediately that thought comes in. When you go on vacation or something like this, you are enjoying yourself, that you say, okay, my gosh, only 2 days more left, and so on. So really, the unlimitedness is not something that our conclusion is, but the fundamental nature of Ishvara is Satyam Jnanam Ananta. And that fundamental nature is also my nature. This is what we have to understand. in understanding this fact, there are two aspects to it. One is the verse number 26 says, Pranavo hi aparam brahma. Pranavascha parasmritaha. So in understanding my fundamental nature, there are two ways of looking at it. So one is called Apara Brahma. So in Vedanta, this is called Dhyeya Brahma. Dhyeya Brahma means one that has to be meditated upon. This is called Apara Brahma. Dhyeya Brahma. The other one is called Parabrahma, which is Gyeya Brahma. Not meditated upon, but which is to be known. And once it is known, then dhyanam is not necessary. Then it is not necessary. Then it is just has to be clarified. I remember reading Swami Paramarthananda's commentary on the Bhagavad Gita. I was going to discuss it in the next class. He made an interesting observation. It was so true. He said, supposing you know something, like this is and he said like this is a 100 rupee note. Now, when you know this is a 100 rupee note and you see that in front of you, whether you are happy, you go through various emotions in your life. Sometimes you're happy, sometimes you're unhappy. Whether you are happy, the reality of the 100 rupee note doesn't change. If you're unhappy, the reality of the 100 rupee note doesn't change. That remains the same. Has nothing to do with your happiness or unhappiness. So also, the Jnaya Brahma, which is Parabrahma, which is the fundamental nature of Brahman, which is the fundamental nature of Atma. This is what we studied just a few minutes ago. This is a very beautiful Mahavakya. And we studied it to a little extent, but we will do that again. So, number 2, verse number 2. Sarvagum hi etad brahma ayam atma brahma. This is what we have to be very clear about. Ayam atma, ayam means this atma, the one that you are at the moment. You are a 100 rupee note. Whether you are happy or unhappy, it doesn't matter. The only thing that will happen is that when you are happy, the 100 rupee note, which is the Atma in this case, let's say the Atma, substituting the example to this, the Atma means me. When you are happy, this me shines very well. You don't want any other changes to it. You are happy with it. If you are unhappy, you lose that Atma. That's not me. I want to be the same happy person that I used to be before. So this is when you don't know clearly that you are Satyam Jnanam Anantam. If you know that you are Satyam Jnanam Anantam, it is like knowing the reality of the 100 rupee note. Then what will happen is, if you're happy, you will rejoice in that. If you happen to be unhappy because your mind is still the focus of a lot of relationships, a lot of problems, and so on and so forth, you will smile at it. Just like you don't say that the 100-rupee note has changed just because you are unhappy. Beautiful example by Swami Paramarthananda. That just like the 100-rupee note does not change, it's the same thing, whether it has nothing to do whether you're happy or not. Same thing will happen with your own Atma, if you know that very clearly. And you will know it. You will know it by study, by continuous study and understanding. And if you do that, what happens is that really the whole world melts away. It does not really create, and it creates a seeming problem to you. There's no real problem. So the differentiation between Satyam and Mithya becomes very clearly. So therefore, in verse number 26, going back to it, he says, Pranavo hi aparam brahma, pranavascha parasmritaha, meaning that both the apara brahma and parabrahma can be gotten by the study of pranava. Both of them. And it's very possible that you initially do apara brahma, dheya brahma. You have to do some dhyanam to it. Eventually though, you will become knower of Parabrahma, which is none other than yourself. So instead of revising this, in just doing this one more time, I think we did that last week also. Here Swami Maheshananji has given a very beautiful example. So he says that there are three kinds of adhikaris, students, who want to understand Parabrahma. Three kinds. So one is, and so Gita also gives the same thing, he said. He says that in Gita he says that once you start something, you need to finish it. So understand this three-way differentiation that Swami Maheshananji pointed out. Number one is the inferior student of life. So here's the situation. We have taken birth in this life, whatever, either through our choice or the choice of our karmas or something, we have now entered into this one life, one movie. So now our job is to finish this movie well. So this, just look at the Param Brahma and the Apara Brahma in this context. So I think that example that Swami Maheshananji gave, remember I told you about this. So this is really brought home to me very well. So what he said is that a movie is designed by a bunch of people that have an objective. Producer, director, financier, etc. They say, let's create this movie. And they create various roles for it and so on. Then they select you for a particular role. Exactly this is exactly what is happening to us. When a child is born in a particular family at a particular place, that role has been assigned to the child. And not only to the child, but to the parents, to the grandparents, the friends, and so on. There is a certain role associated with it. So let's take parents. let's look at the role of the parent. So the parents have asked for a child, and they've been asked to raise it properly, and so on. This is the movie. So Maheshananji says, I have seen where the child says, Mom and Dad, I was given a grade in the school and with some homework, and I was asked to show it to you. I was asked to show it to you and to discuss it with you. So the father says, I'm just too busy. Can I just sign it without really looking at it? Sure. So the child says, sure, sign it, I don't care. This is a case where you're likely to be a low-class student of life. This is the lower grade student of life. Exactly like that movie I told you about this, that the director and the producer of the movie said, there's going to be a car chase, and we need to select a person who really drives very well. So they test the guy out and so on. He says, we're going to pay you thousands of dollars for doing this role. Can you please do this? So he says, sure, what do I need to do? He says that it is a role where you have to chase a thief who has done some carjacking, let's say some very serious problem, some carjacking, and he's running away. And you have to chase this fellow. This is what you have to do. And you have to drive it at 70, 80 miles per hour, very fast. Running you can even take a chair from inside the room there, or this is too high, just take one from the room. So he says, just follow this guy. And you have to drive at a very fast rate. He says, okay. So what happens at the end of that? He says, we want to show that this carjacker is so clever that he escapes you. And then he doesn't get caught. And he just disappears, and this is the plot. So he says, okay. So he starts driving. And he goes up to 65 miles per hour. And then he finds that there's a lot of traffic there, because it's a real life kind of a thing. He says, why should I really kill myself? Because the plot shows that I'm not supposed to catch him. I'm not supposed to catch him. So why should I try to endanger my own life? So he stops at 60, 65 miles per hour. He puts his radio on, and the fellow is now long gone. And there's cameras all along and so on and so forth. So at the end of that, the guy says, what happened? Where were you? He says, you also know that there was not going to be any caught. I also know it. So what is the reason for Mike doing that? This guy. Is he going to get another part after that? He's not going to get another part. Absolutely not. So Swami Maheshananji says, here's the situation. Ishvara, with your approval and agreement, has given you a certain role. And that role has to be played well. So a role played well gets you into the B class category. C is where you don't play your role well. B is when you play your role well. If you play your role well and you continue to focus in on the reality of what is happening, you have a chance to go into the first class. And what is the first class? The first class has two big elements to it. One element is the recognition that there is some order into the whole universe. There is an Ishvara involved in every aspect of your life, and you should try to recognize it, which is the truth. It's just that we think we can go without recognizing it. We don't need Ishvara. We can take care of our own finances and health and so on and so forth. And what happens is then you have to go through another movie, another movie, another movie, next life, next life. But if you play your role well and you don't have any problems because if you don't play your role well, you get into problems. So the B class is you avoid unnecessary problems, which frees you into an understanding of what is happening. If you do that, then the following things happen. When problems occur, you look at problems in a different light. The light you look at it is, this is Ishvara's wish, and really it does not affect me. It does not affect me. So Mahesharanji says, I'm going to give you a bitter truth. Please, are you ready to listen to it? He says, he is all saying that. In Hindi he says, देखो मैं तुमको कड़वी बात बताने वाला हूँ, तो जरा बुरा मत मानना. This is what he says. I'm really telling you just all this from him. Your son, 25-year-old son, meets with an accident and he dies. The B class student will be devastated. Devastated. His life is just upside down. And he starts to doubt about what is this Ishvara business and so on and so forth. My own son, because the loss of a child is one of the worst tragedies you can find. The A-class student certainly grieves, goes to the funeral, comes back, settles the accounts. It's not as though he's laughing or anything like this. Inwardly he says, Ishvara, you now take care of him. You gave him to me and you took it away. You must have had a reason. At least I don't have to take care of him in this life now. What else should I do? Whatever you did, I understand. You have a reason for it. Nothing happens without you. This is what you need to do. This is what I need to do. This is the A-class student. The ability to reach this point is in our grasp. And this kind of an attitude that gets you from C to B to A is the study of Apara Brahma. Dhyaya Brahma. So Dhyaya Brahma means, Apara Brahma means that this is the order of the Ishvara. It's not a joke. And it's a very beautiful order. So study it and to understand it and be devoted to it, but not forever. It may happen in this life, it may not happen. You and I may not deserve that we will become Parabrahma. But Pranava as an Aparabrahma is extremely effective. What does that mean? It means that we need to understand how the creation is made. That there is a Jagrat Avastha, there is a Swapna Avastha, there is a Shrupti Avastha, and there is Turiya. The whole structure has to be seen. And that I may not understand it, but I should start understanding that. I should start looking at it, looking at the larger structure of it. Because only then the possibility of my becoming free of problems will occur. Because then the Apara Brahma slowly leads to Parabrahma. And Parabrahma means if you have a glimpse of yourself as just a glimpse, doesn't have to be a sustaining vision yet, but a glimpse of the Atma as Satyam Jnanam Anantam, then the whole thing will change. Just like seeing a 100-rupee note doesn't make any difference. It is what it is. Whether you're happy, unhappy, whether you are taking care of it, not taking care of it, doesn't matter. That's an outside object. But if you know yourself as Satyam Jnanam Anantam, then you can see the attitude of the Mahatma. Not even, we can think about it like a Mahatma means a kind of like in an ochre clothes or anything. Nothing like that. But a person who understands Ishvara, I am very happy that you and I are the same. And I submit to you in whatever happens. And has an inner smile to it. Doesn't mean that he doesn't grieve for the loss of his son. Of course. And in fact, it's interesting, in Gita, it says, so in Hindi he says, I'll just read it in Hindi, व्यवहार कितना उत्तम करना चाहिए? What kind of a superior transaction should you do? भगवान ने गीता में कहा है कि ठीक जैसा व्यवहार अज्ञानी करता है वैसा ही ज्ञानी करे. Swami Dayanand used to say the same thing. He said, that suppose there is a death of a relative or something like this, and you are a jnani, you feel that, that the person has gotten disassociated with the body, but really nothing happens, Atma remains the Atma. And so everybody else is grieving and you are eating ice cream. So vyavahara means that just as, and you will be grieving too if your own relative died, you will be grieving if your son died, and you'll be grieving even more. You should grieve. But inside of that. And so there is one interesting thing. This is from Bhagavad Gita. I don't remember the exact, you can even look it up. He says, Saktaha karmani atvidvamsaha yatha kurvanti bharata. Hey Bharata, Saktaha karmani avidvamsaha yatha kurvanti. And so he says that even though your vyavahara remains the same, you are not asaktaha. This is a very important word that I think we should try to understand later. We won't have time today to completely unfold it. But this is a word that we should keep in mind. And I've been thinking about it for several days. What is a good English translation for it? This comes up in many, many different ways. Saktaha, asaktaha. I think a good English translation is obsessed with it. Obsession is a good translation of asakta. Obsession means, it's interesting, Swami Maheshanji had given this example in some other context. He says, what? When you have these political parties, Or it could even be religious, you could be Shaiva or Vaishnava or something like this. So let's say political party. And this is happening even now, this whole Trump business. Okay? So you take a Republican and you ask the Republican, hey, this is your guy, don't you say this is... And so this Republican, he's creating a crazy thing. He says, I know they shouldn't be doing it, but this is asakta. It means that even though things are going wrong, I will still remain a Republican. So why don't you become a Democrat? No. Even though his whole life he's been doing, this is very interesting. There was in the Wall Street Journal, there was a series of articles about 15-20 years ago. And if you can go back, there was very well done. Wall Street Journal had articles about the Democratic culture and the Republican culture. And I won't go into the details, but it says was, the Republicans are corrupt and the Democrats are incompetent. This is the situation. So, asaktaha means that you are basically corrupt. But then why don't you just leave the corruption and become incompetent at least? At least you are truthful. He says, no, I can't do that. So Swami Maheshananji says, and Gita says the same thing. The difference between a B-class student and an A-class student is Agyani and Agyani. And Agyani, when you lose your son, you don't want to hear about anything else. This is your life. You are devastated. And you just want to say, leave me alone. I've got my own problems and so on and so forth. What do you think? I've lost my own son. It's not an easy thing to do. You won't understand. Leave me alone. I'll have my own dukkha. This is called asakta. Asakta means that your grieving becomes real. I'm not going to leave it. You tell somebody, just like a Republican guy, that you please, this guy is going crazy, why don't you change parties? And so you tell someone who has lost a son, this is, don't you want to be independent of that? He says, no. This is a very big thing. Don't mess me with my dukkha. So the jnani should certainly grieve like an agyani. Grieve like him. Pretend all the things, and not only pretend, you actually will be losing. It's a big thing. But inside, you are not asakta. So this is what Gita says. This is the context of this. So anyway, I'm just extending this a little bit. Pranavo hi aparam brahma, pranavascha paravsmitaha. So it means that a complete study of pranava, which means all the states of the human existence and how it comes about, seeing the order in it, and seeing the fact, ultimately seeing the fact that the turiya is independent of the three stages. Myself, the awareness, myself, the Satyam Jnanam Anantam. I should see that I behave like this is exactly what happens. You have a role to play in your waking state. And then you completely are different in a role to play in your dream state. This is funny, I'm mentioning this because just this morning, when the alarm rang, I usually get up a few minutes before 5 o'clock to get ready. And usually I'm up almost every day, but today I could hear the alarm. And when I heard the alarm, I'm in a dream. And this is happening in most of my dreams. In my dream, I'm looking for the right direction. And the funny part was I had a smile on my face. I'm driving and I'm finding that I'm not able to find where I want to go. So I pull over and look at my GPS on my phone and on the car. This is the dream going on. And then the alarm rings. So I am now, as a dreamer, in a completely different world and very real. I was really smiling because now my dreams have become high-tech. Really, this never used to happen before. Never used to happen before. GPS in a dream? Honestly, I was smiling at myself. I said, wow, this is wonderful. It's because of the use of this, and why don't you, when I also go, the other day I got such a tongue lashing from my younger son because my wife was going to pick up her niece and there was a big accident on 280. So he was saying, didn't you look up in your, she says, well, how should I know there will be an accident? He says, no, Mom, you're supposed to do this. So all this talk was going on and so forth. I'm in a different role in a dream. It's really interesting. I mean, at this point, I'm talking to you and so on. This is just a movie. There's another movie in the dream, and a lack of a movie, just a rest in the dream. So the Apara Brahma is a very concerted effort to understand that there is a structure. What is the structure? And to see that the end of the structure is that I'm independent of it. And it takes a while to understand it, but it comes. When it comes, then the Dhyeya Brahma becomes Jnaya Brahma. It's something to be known. And once you reach that point, then it becomes Apurva, second line, Apurva. Anantaraha, abahyaha, anaparaha, pranavaha, avyayaha. So apurvaha. So this I think we'll have to, I want to go on. So apurvaha means without cause. This is a very important thing to really grasp, and we will work on it. Important word, apurva. So what happens is that the way we look at our life, we look at it in terms of karana karya vyavahara. Cause, effect, cause, effect. There is an effect that it must have had a cause. That must have had a cause. That must have had a cause. So my entire visualization of the whole creation is only in terms of cause and effect. This is true for the creation. It is not true for Atma. Myself, there is no reason what I am, there is no reason that I am what I am. I am what I am. Swatasiddha. In something which is Swatasiddha, one which is self-existing and awareness, there is no cause. Nothing created it. It was never brought in. There's no reason for it. It is already. But this doesn't enter my mind. No, there must be some cause. There must be some cause for it. Because the way I look at things is everything has to have a cause. This completely is outside that goal, outside that role, outside that goal. Apara, apurva. So this is a very beautiful thing to even just meditate on. Apurva. Because you cannot, you have an opinion about yourself. Because the way you evaluate yourself is that, I am happy, now I'm unhappy. What is the reason for it? Let me remove it and so on. You go into this never-ending circle. There's no reason for it. You are already free. Apurva. Apurvaha. Na purvam karanam asya vidyate iti apurvaha. I won't go into a lot of detail. Anantaraha. Anantaraha means that which is jati rahitaha. So there is no bhedaha, no changes in it. Pragyana ghanaha. This is a single thing which has no changes to it. There is no karma, there is no kriya, there is no guna. Very interestingly enough, Swami Maheshanji had given this example. He said, when we sadhus, so what happens is they make sure that their new ochre clothes have a good color in it. He was explaining all this. I didn't realize this. So he says what happens is that you make sure that the color of whenever your dhotis have become old and you want to get a new dhoti, then you want to make sure that the color is proper. So what happens is that he says that in Varanasi, in Kashi, because he had an ashram in Kashi, there is bright sunlight. And he says the people that make the color on this dhoti do it in clear light, very clear light, at around noontime. And there the color is very accurate. And he says what happens is that in Delhi, so there is he has an ashram in Delhi, which I've been to. I've been there 2 or 3 times to the Swami Maheshanji's ashram in New Delhi. It's a funny place because when he first built it, Delhi was kind of like almost underpopulated, and the place that he had built it, it was very near Mahatma Gandhi's Samadhi on this road. I've been there 2 or 3 times. And at that time it was the outskirts of the city, very quiet. Now if you go there, oh my God, there are buses honking, and there is so much noise, so much traffic. Anyway, so that was his ashram. So he says when we have dhotis made in that ashram, then it is done inside a room. And there is artificial lights. And so what happens is that the color is conditioned by the artificial light. And he says when you come out to the real life, you find that it is completely different than what it is. So he says we learnt the lesson. We are not going to make dhotis in New Delhi. We always go to either some where is this bright sunlight, no pollution, then the color is proper. Why am I saying that? Because this is an important thing for us to see, and I'll relate it to the final message that Swami Dayanandji had given when we graduated from PRC. This was his valedictory message to us. And so keep this in mind. The same example as Swami Meshananji. Swami Dayananji had said, you will be free if you do, the day you stop evaluating yourself through your mind. So before I elaborate on that, now I want to connect the washing of the dhotis with this statement by Swami Dayananji. And what it said was that washing, not washing, but putting a color on in artificial light means you are viewing the color wrongly. That's the meaning of it. Really, you should be doing it when there is no artificiality to it. So going back to Swami Dayananji also, and just thinking about that and just meditating on it, what happens is, so this is apurvaha. See, look at this, apurvaha, anantaraha, bahyaha, anaparaha, all of these things. What happens is that we are conditioned to view ourselves through our minds. I think I'm doing well, or I'm not doing well. Oh, I'm trying, and I'm studying, and I'm doing this, and so. It's all through your experience. How are you feeling? He says, how are you feeling? And your answer will be in terms of how your experiences are. It turns out this is not how you are. You are outside your experiences. What? What do you mean by outside my experiences? So the experiences means that my view of Turiya is not appreciated by me. I am already independent. No, I don't quite understand it. That's exactly the point. The idea is that Swami, this is interesting. Swami Viditatmananda had given this example. This was a real situation. He said that I used to give talks to on public talks. Swami Viditatmananda said. He said I used to give a public talk to people, and there was this businessman who would come in, and in India you put your shoes outside, just like we do here. Except in India, you have hundreds of people, collected. So you have hundreds of pair of shoes. And many of them look alike, and so on and so forth. So the situation was that there was a series of talks that Swamiji was given on Bhagavad Gita over 10 days. So on the last day, this businessman had tears in his eyes. And he said, Swamiji, something bad has happened to me. So he says, what? What bad has happened to you? He says, this person came up to me and he accused me that I am a thief and I stole his chappals, his shoes. No, I didn't do that, Swamiji. If I did it intentionally, I didn't do it. So Swamiji says, listen, for the last 9 days I've been saying, you are Brahman, you are Brahman, you are Brahman. That had no effect on you. But this one fellow said, you are a thief that you got. Now you are very upset about this? So don't you have any respect from what I'm telling you? This is exactly the situation, really. So we are telling you, you are Satyam Jnanam Anantam. He says, oh, I don't know about that. But if I tell you that, you are not doing very well, he says, yes, that's true. I'm not doing very well. This is the situation. What do we do? This is the teaching of the Shastra also knows this. So it says, it winks at itself and he says, now these guys are studying. Now let us see how it happens. It's a very strange situation, honestly. So anyway, the gist of this is that the Dhyeya Brahma is useful to get yourself situated that you can see Parabrahma. You cannot go through Parabrahma directly unless you've done a lot of good things in your past and suddenly you can do it. But to lead a life where you do what is expected of you is a very important thing. Then you can start to, just like I think that movie example really got to me. That if you want to get a good part in the next life, you better do a good job of, you took a job because the guys interviewed you and says, can you drive? Can you drive fast? Do you have the ability to weave through the traffic? You don't need any classes or anything? He says, yeah. This is an expensive job. He says, yes. And then the script, he reads the script that at the end of that you are not supposed to catch him. But the fellow doesn't even try. So Swamiji also says, here are these parents who raise the children. And when the children need some help in homework or so on, you're too busy. They won't have children otherwise. But if you do your job well in all aspects of it, then you go for the next step, or simultaneously go for the next step. So this is the real meaning of Apara Brahma and Parabrahma. Let's start number 27, but it's a continuation of it. Sarvasya pranavo hi adihi madhyam antas tatha evacha evam hi pranavam jnatva vyashnute tadanantaram. So just reading some of the commentary from Swami Maheshananji. And so keep this in your mind. So the Apara Brahma is meant for the Manda and Madhyama Adhikari, the ones who are not yet qualified. And Parabrahma is for the Uttama Adhikari, that A, C, B and A. And the way to get from C to B to an A, getting from C to B is not that difficult, because that means that you're given a role, you fulfill that role and so on. That's relatively easy to do. But to go from B to an A requires the following. From B to A, you need to develop a bhakti towards Paramatma, towards Ishvara, to recognize Ishvara in all of your aspects of your life. Have a devotion to it, and devotion which is natural to you, which is not I must be devoted, but something that comes with your own association with Ishvara. And here I tell you the Vedic culture in India is very useful. Yeah, I mean, just look at the whole arranged marriage system. It's so absolutely amazing, honestly. That really, at first, when you meet your spouse, at least in an arranged marriage like I had, many of you may have different ones, we had no idea who the spouse is. We kind of some aspects of it and so on and so forth. I don't know if I told you this or not. I still remember I was 11 or 12 years old. This was even just to look at the arranged in Amritsar. So my uncle Mamaji, who was about 25 or 26, so his parents, my grandfather, and they went to see a woman in Delhi because somebody had said, you know, this is the right wife for your son. So that scene just is, I could visualize it. So we were just in the house with a few people, and my Nana and Nani ji, my grandfather and grandmother, they came in a rickshaw from the railway station because we didn't know how they were going to come. Sometimes either a tonga or a rickshaw. So they came in a rickshaw. And the rickshawala had this ring. Pring, pring. So as soon as he came in, we said, they're here. And they had a basket of fruit in the rickshaw. You know what that meant? That this has been arranged. The marriage has been arranged. And so my uncle unloaded the basket and so on and so forth. And they said, congratulations, we have arranged a marriage for you. And there is no picture. Because in those days, you know, you would take a picture or anything like this. So there's a description that she's 5 feet 3 inches, you know, and fair complexion. That's an important aspect of you know, and all those kinds of things. That was it, about 4 or 5 minutes of description and so on and so forth. Then the question is where the marriage will take place. No one has seen anyone. Then at the marriage, my Mami ji had this great ghungat right up to here. Nobody can see her. Even her husband has not seen her. But we could also peek up, you know, all these boys and girls, and she would wink us out like this. This is how marriages are arranged. What love there can be. It develops over time. You just get familiar with it. Even if it is not a good match, you just get, you know what, is what Ishvara has given for me. So very similarly to that is the fact that at first we think about Ishvara is with you all the time. Where is that? Just get familiar with it. Slowly you develop to a point. Really, I mean, if you look at my own life, you know, it's to a point that I just feel the presence of Ishvara in every aspect of my life. Whatever happens, doesn't matter. Has to. Because I don't feel alone anymore. And so you have to develop. And so this is a gradual process. You have to do this. You are not going to take the final step of being a Uttama Adhikari where deaths and births don't matter anymore, and you are not going to take that step until you go through the intermediate step of Apara Brahma. This is what is being communicated. And what is being communicated is that the end point of all of this should still be Pranava. Pranava here means, Omkara means a complete picture of your life. All 3 stages of your life. See how it is going. So this is a very beautiful thing. Pranavo hi aparam brahma, pranavascha param praraspataha, apurva anantara abhahyaha, anaparaha, pranava avyayaha. Then, I think I will stop here because there's some very interesting arguments about the explanation of Sarvasya Pranava Yadi, which will take me a little while to unfold. But I think I took a little longer to reiterate. Maybe some of you were not here last week, so I wanted to go over both the Parabrahma and the Aparabrahma in the right light. And so spent a bit more time than I expected to. But I think at this point I will stop with a more thorough analysis of verse number 26, and we will do number 27 next time. Om Swasti Prajabhyah Paripalayantam Nyayena Margena Mahi Mahishah Go Brahmanebhyah Shubhamastu Nityam Loka Samastha Sukhinau Bhavantu Kale Varshatu Parjanyah Prithvi Sasya Shalini Desho Yam Shovarahitaha Brahmana Santu Nirbhaya Sarve Bhavantu Sukhinah Sarve Santu Niramaya Sarve Bhadrani Pashyantu Ma Kasyit Dukha Bhaved Asato Ma Sadgamaya Tamaso Ma Jyotirgamaya Mrityurma Amritam Gamaya Om Purnamadav Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate Om Shanti 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 Hari Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha Hari Om. I don't know what happened to the audio, it just stopped. Happy to answer any questions. Yes, go ahead.
Verse 26, second line, Avyahaha, and then it says Anaparaha.
Anaparaha.
What does that?
So, Anaparaha means that, let me see the explanation that Swami, I have an idea, but let me double check just one thing.
Without effect.
Yeah, he does not, and that's why I didn't even do this. So, Anaparaha means nothing separate from it or superior from it. There's nothing more to be done. Kind of like this is the final thing. You don't. So I think that one of the issues in our life is that we always, it's an unfinished journey. Anytime you are at a point, you say, okay, what's next? Where do I go from here? And that's a natural feeling because it is, you are not done yet. But with a complete understanding, you do not feel there is anything more that needs to be done. Nothing more is necessary, there is nothing superior to this. And so all your desires are fulfilled. So that is a kind of a meaning of the Anapara. Yeah.
Swami Paramarthananda is giving without effect. So similar.
Without effect, okay.
Yeah.
And no, actually, Gambhir Nanda is also saying the same thing, without effect.
Without effect.
So when he's saying Anaparaha, Anantaraha, and Abhaya is like inside, outside.
Yeah,
And
those there's,
So nothing, no effect.
I have to think about without having effect, what does it really, doesn't grab me in terms of the understanding. I'll have to think about that. I'll come back to you. Rani?
So does it mean when you have reached that stage, the Anaparaha, that you are at the point of knowing the para.
Yes, of course, yeah. Yeah, so the second line is the knowing of it, Parabrahma, yeah.
What is,
Yes, sorry, what question?
what is apurvaha? I didn't get it.
So apurvaha means without a cause. Actually, the word apurva has a couple of different meanings. Here it means without a cause, as we were discussing earlier, that it is apurva in some way is one which is not born, which is already there. But there is another meaning of apurva, which is used often in the Shastra, which means that this is not known before. So the Shastra, the knowledge of the Shastra, the knowledge of Brahman, is called apurva because there is no other way of knowing Brahman except the study of the Vedas. So there the word apurva is also used. Like, for example, you can figure out how to be happy in your life. You can, and how to be successful. So the Shastra doesn't waste its time trying to teach you how to be happy. It does in a way, it gives you some pointers, but you can figure it out elsewhere. But to know yourself, there is no other way. No other religion, no other spiritual thought except the Vedas. It is unique. And it's not says I'm superior. There isn't. What can we do? And so that is called apurva. Apurva means that it is not available in any another form. This is the only way you can do that. So that's another meaning of the word apurva. But here the meaning of apurva is that, and in some way they are both similar in that sense, but slightly different from each other. Yeah. So we have, sorry Viren, I just wanted to go on. We have a very interesting proposition to move from here. We'll discuss it in the teleconference today, but just to give you a 2-minute answer. This place that we are in is going to get very expensive very soon. There's a possibility that we may be able to go to I think this is a bit too small for us. We need to get something bigger anyway. And we may not have a chance to just stay right here and have someone else move into the other, because there is a single door, so the owner wants to have a single entry for both of them. And both of them at $2 a square foot per month is pretty expensive. So a new idea has been, and I must say that the owner has been very kind to us, because he's given us the first right of refusal. He's ready to offer it to a number of other people, including HCI, to Kailash Joshi and to Yoga Bharati and so on. But I think our association with him, because he's been coming to some of the meditation classes, the puja and so on and so forth, he gets the feeling that we are some authentic people. So he has certain shraddha towards us. So he has given us an opportunity, which I think is an interesting opportunity. And for the first time, we can have a place which is not ideal. It has a lot of other some issues, so it's not an ideal. But given our situation, it's an interesting idea. I'll discuss it in more detail in the teleconference today. So if you have the time, then Chandra, you will lead everyone to that other place.
Sure.
Huh? So you can just follow Chandra right now.
What is
It's
this?
the 556 South Milpitas. It's just 2 blocks from here. There's a place called Pista House written there on. It's upstairs from it. It's a huge place, a lot of implications which I've been thinking about, and I will clarify it for you this afternoon at 3 o'clock in case you are interested. And certainly if you do not have the time, then I will explain it in more detail later on. But it is interesting, you know, can anyone give me the Shadvikara of the human body? Does anyone remember that? Shadvikara, the 6 transformations of the human body. Anybody remember that? What is it? Asti, Jayate, Vardhate, Viparinamate, Apakshiyate, Vinashyati. These are the 6 stages of the human body. Asti means that it is there, you can see it. Jayate means born. Vardhate means it grows. Then comes a very interesting one called Apakshiyate. So Apakshiyate means it is not pure Vardhate. So if you look at a child, it grows. Both the boy and the girl, they grow. Then comes a stage where the growth is rather different. The boy starts to have a mustache and a beard, and the woman grows, the girl becomes a woman. Their voices change. It's a normal, not a normal growth. This is called apakshiyate. I have a feeling that AVC has been growing, but this is a chance to become apakshiyate. A completely different way of looking at it. This I will explain to you in more detail this afternoon. I don't want to take up your time. So if you can just kindly follow Chandra.